Welcome back, CSE 230, to part 5 of our Wells Lawn Care mobile section that we're working on right now. So what we did so far was make everything visually look okay on a mobile device, except we're not making this happen yet. So let's make that happen. So we're going to click on this ham menu item, and then we're going to display our menu items that disappeared that we displayed as none. So let's take a look at what's going on here. And here's our CSS. Now remember, this is what the menu items initially were like. This is the UL, and these are the menu items, the LIs. So they're the line items, and they're inline block. And that means so they're next to each other, but they work like blocks, is what inline block means. So they could have background colors and that kind of stuff, and padding and all that stuff. So they're inline, but they're inline as blocks. That's what made them look like buttons, like that. And we didn't do any hovers or anything like that. But what we're going to do next is make them stack on each other as blocks, not inline block. But before that, we actually made, in our query, we made all our menu items basically disappear by display none. So we can't just make it none and make it appear in the same query. So we're going to use JavaScript to do that. And we've used JavaScript with some of those CSS styles already, but this will be a little bit of a refresher, even for me, because I don't do this a whole lot. But what we're going to do first is create a function that basically shows menu. So we're going to create a JavaScript file. So we'll be on ex16, and you could go here and add a new file. And we'll just call it script, because that's what it does by default, script.js. Don't screw this up. And it should show up like a little yellow icon there. And there'll be nothing in here. And what we'll do first is we'll do a function, and we'll give it a name called show menu. We'll use camel case, and we'll put opening, closing, curly braces in there. There they are. So that's going to be our function that's going to show the menu. And then we're going to have an add event listener. I'll put this down here. I'll put document, I can do this right away, dot get element by ID. And then in there, what ID are we going to find? Well, we're going to find the ham menu. Where's ham menu? Or ham item. Here it is. ID, ham item, ham dash item. So we're going to go in here and put ham item, and that's in quotes, or you can put single quotes. And then we're going to do dot add event listener. There it is. Remember, it's capital E, capital L. And what add event listener does is it does two things. It does a event like a click, which we'll use, in quotes, click, and then it does there's no parentheses in there, and then it'll do the function call, which is show menu. That's the function call. And do we do a comma in here? I always forget. Let's look up JS add event listener. Nothing wrong with looking it up, add event listener. And I'll use W3 schools. All right, add event listener, let me just make sure. And there is a comma, so we'll put a comma, I believe, when we do that. There it is. Element.add event listener, there's the click, there's some other function, there's a comma in there, but there's not parentheses for the function call. So the function call will not get parentheses, but there will be a comma. So we'll put that in there, and that should be okay. And actually, when I clicked here, it showed me this. So then we'll put a semicolon at the end. So that's our event listener to make this happen. And there's red there. It just might mean there's nothing in there yet. Oh, wait, what does it say? Oh, actually, I saw red there, and there's a problem. And what did I forget? I forgot this, because there is parentheses there, but there's no parentheses there. So you can see, luckily I caught that, or I would have been looking for errors and finding out what's going on. So that's the function name that you're declaring, and that should have parentheses. And then there's the two opening curly braces, parentheses. So what's going to happen in here? Well, we have to display our menu items. And how do we do that? Well, we have to get them, because we're doing JavaScript, we have to get them by class name. And let's try that out. Let's go back here, and we're going to do document. And actually, what might be easier, because we're going to do a number of things, is we're going to make a variable. So let's create a variable and say let And you could do var as well. There's nothing wrong with doing var. Var, and I'll call it menu items. I won't do dashes. Menu items. And we'll let it equal to document dot get, and it's going to be elements by class name. And the class name elements is going to be menu dash item. So the class name that we're using here is this. This is the class name that we're using, and we're getting them. And the variables, just so we could do everything to the variable, though we don't have to repeat this. We don't have to repeat this like 4 times because there's 4 button elements. So we're going to do that. We're going to say var, and then what we'll do after we do that, we'll use the var again. We'll just say menu items dot, and what are we going to do to the menu items? Well, there's a whole bunch of things we have to do. We have to do style dot display equals block, I think. Let me see if I'm doing this right. Style.display equals block. I may be doing it wrong, but let me check. I'm just looking at another one that I already did. I could look it up in W3 Schools. Style.display equals block. No, I'm doing it right, so that's okay. So I'll go back. So I have that right. And you could use single quotes or double quotes. So menu items.display block. And what else are we going to do to the block? Well, let's just see what happens so far. Let's see if this works. Display block, and we'll see what happens. Now, so far we had display none, so let's just check it out. We can click on our hamburger item and see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen here. Let's refresh. I know it's not going to work. I know that. And nothing's happening. Now, I'm not even seeing the menu thing. Now, we could change that so that it actually has a cursor on there. Let's actually do that. W3 Schools. Let's get that set up. Oh, here we go. Pointer. I didn't see it here. So we're going to use pointer. So let me just copy that. And I'm not sure where I'll put it yet. I think it could be in our, down here, wherever I have the ham thing. I have ham item. Maybe I can put it here. And I'll just put, well, they have it as another style, but I'll just put cursor pointer. And I'll put it in there. So that's going to be for the nav ham item, cursor pointer, and I'll just put it as the third style. Let's see if that actually does that. And then we'll see if it works. There we go. That's what I want. Took me a little while to find it, but that's what I want. And it doesn't seem to be working. And if something's not working, always kind of do inspect and look for some kind of error down here. Go in console and look for an error. Now, if you don't see any error, it says 2 issues. Let me see. And it's usually not the dev tool things. So I'm not seeing anything. So something's not working so far. This looks okay. Actually, I need a semicolon here. Let me make sure I have that. Let's see if we can make that go away. Also, what's going to happen inside there is, first of all, that's going to go away. So we can go document dot get element by ID, because we have an ID. And the ID is, I think, ham item. I think that's the one I said, oh, let's give it 2. Ham item. Yeah, here it is, ham item. That's the ID. And it has to be in quotes. And then dot style dot display equals, I don't think we need quotes for none. None. It's in white. I think we do need quotes for none. So let's see if any of that works so far. It's not going away yet. And nothing I do seems to be working. And do you know why? Do you know why? Is anybody watching this and like going, wait a minute, what's he doing? The JavaScript isn't working because I didn't link to my JavaScript yet. I have the script here, I have my file, and this is, I don't mind this happening because the same thing will happen to you. We didn't link to the script yet. So let's link to the script. Nothing's gonna, I could keep doing this all day. Nothing's gonna work. So right before my closing body tag, let's go script, tab, and then in here, we're gonna have to do source src. Don't do scr. and we're going to link to script.js. So this is the most important thing. This is why nothing was working that we were doing, because we never linked to our script yet. So that's very important. And it's okay that I messed it up, because you're going to mess it up. And hopefully you watch me do it, you'll realize maybe you're screaming at the screen saying he never linked to it. So script source equals script, and I don't have a closing bracket here. So you don't need anything inside here. It's just there's an opening script, script source equals script.js, and a closing script. And we usually put that right at the end of body. So now let's see if that helps. Maybe linking to the actual JavaScript might help. There we go. It works, except it disappears. Everything disappears, and we don't see the block yet. So we don't see the block, and that's actually working. It's making our thing. So we're not seeing this stuff. We're not seeing menu style block. And if you remember, documents by class name will not do everything to all the items. It has to have a certain item. So let's just try this. Remember this? Let's see if this works. So that works, actually. And we'll just have to make sure it works to all of them. Because remember, class name, it uses the index number. So we'd want to center those. So that's another style. So you can do it kind of manually like this if you wanted to. But then I'll show you how to do it with a loop. Style.display, and it would be text align. Remember, it takes all the CSS and actually just puts it together in camel case. Equals center. Let's see if that works. And that works. Now we probably want it a little bit shorter, and we won't worry about this yet. Going back to normal on refresh. So center, and we'll put a width, and maybe we'll just make it 4 rem is 64. Let's try 8 rem. We'll use rem. That would be 8 times 16. And we'll see if that works. Again, a lot of kind of experimenting here. And that works. Now the whole thing isn't centered. The text is centered, but the whole block isn't centered. So let's make sure that each block is centered. And again, I'm trying things here. I'm trying not to do it like I did before. I'm trying to think it through. So style.margin, remember that's one way to center things. And in here, we'll put 0, and then we'll put auto. So it'll be 0 up and down, it'll be auto right and left. Let's see if that works. And that works. So that's kind of what we want, except we'd have to do them for all of them. So let me refresh it. And that actually is working, except we don't have them all showing up, and we don't have it refreshing. Now, I didn't work on the refresh yet, so that'll be brand new. But now the problem is it's only doing one. And the way you can do all of them at once, instead of copying this, you could do that. You could copy this, and you could do it for 1 and then 2 and 3. You could do that. That'll work fine. If you did this, let me just do this. Copy, copy, paste, copy, paste. I could do this. I could go here and put 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, and then go down here and put 3, 3, 3. That's basically 4 elements. 0, 1, 2, and 3. I could do that. I could do that and be done with it. And look at that. It actually works. So that actually works. If join, our team, that has out team. I have to fix that. And we still have to fix this, so we don't have to refresh it. But before we do that, let me fix out team. That should be in my index. Join out team, that would be in our navigation. Join our team. And then maybe I'll make it a little wider. That would be in my JavaScript, because that's where we're making it wider. 8 rem. Let me see if I can make it 9 rem. Now I have to change all of these. everything has to be consistent. That's kind of the problem here, is that if you have to make changes, you have to do it to 4 different things. But let's just see if that works. Let's refresh it. Let's go in here. Let's do that. Join our team is still not enough room there for join our team. Let me just try 10. Put an extra 10 pixels. That should fit, unless there's something I'm missing here. And let's just try this. And that works. That works okay. And you could even make it wider for mobile. Actually, if this thing was a little bit wider, I might actually go back and make everything. Now, here's the thing. You're making everything 10 rem or whatever. You know what? I'm going to show you in the next video, in part 6, I'm going to show you how to use a loop, a JavaScript loop, and then we could do it one time. So that means it'll just cycle through all the elements, and you don't have to do this 4 times. I mean, this works, and I'm glad you can see how it works manually, but we'll use a loop. So I'll change these to maybe 20 rem or something in the next video. So in part 6, we're just going to tweak our JavaScript a little bit and find a refresh script, which I think we already have from a previous exercise, and put that in there, and hopefully we'll be done. So hopefully we can finish up with part 6. So this is part 5. So we're at the point where we do have to refresh when we resize it. We are at the point where we have it mobile, and we could click on our hamburger menu button and it shows up. Now we don't have any hovers or any of that kind of stuff yet. We could have put that in the regular CSS. You could build that in the regular CSS. It'll look nicer. But I could do that in the next video. But I'll make these wider. I'll maybe put a hover in the code on the CSS in part 6, and that should be good. And then a refresh script, so that when we refresh it, or so then when it resizes, it refreshes. That's the thing that happens with the refresh. You resize it and it refreshes. So it'll go back to normal. So it looks like this for mobile. Then when if you go back, if you use your screen or anything, it should refresh and go back to the way it was. So we'll do that as well in part 6, but that's a good start for what we have. If you got this far, you're pretty good. You're doing pretty well. And if you're putting up with me kind of making mistakes and stuff like that, that's okay, because you're going to make mistakes too. And I think it's good that you watch me make mistakes and forget things. And I'm trying not to look up things too much from the way I already did it in spring. I'm trying to think in terms of what should I do and what would be easy to do, and then kind of, you know, doing this and changing every one, and not just saying, hey, let's do a loop, but saying, hey, you know, we're doing this 4 times. We have to change everything 4 times. It's a lot of code. Maybe there's an easier way, and a loop might be that easier way. So that's what we're going to do next in part 6.